Hello, what's going on? My name is Rich Ryan, bringing you a new TORC Talk installment. Today, we are talking to the elite competitors at the men's field for the Jacksonville race at Spartan. So it's the first stop at the U.S. National Series. We had three males competing in that event. We had Logan Broadbent, who finished third overall on that podium, Mark Gaudet, who finished seventh, and Nick Ryker, who finished 11th. So we're going to go through the race pretty much stage by stage and talk about what these athletes were feeling, get their idea on what they could have done better, and just walking through and hearing what it's like for an elite athlete and what their mindset is during these actual events and kind of their strategies and tactics that they take to improve and to get their best place possible. So if you like these videos, make sure you hit us with a subscribe. We're going to bring these to you pretty often after every athlete runs some sort of race, just give you recaps just so you can get this type of insight. Hit that subscribe, hit us with a like, and here we go. All right, fellas, what's going on? So we are here to talk about Jacksonville. So is there three of the team members from TORC? We got Mark Gaudet, Nick Ryker, and Logan Broadbent here to talk about what all went down the first U.S. National Series race. So I want to go over everything. So if you guys missed the results, we had three members in the top 11, we'll say, right? Yeah. So Logan finished on the podium spot. Mark was seventh to cross the line, and Nick finished in 11th. Real quick, Mark, are you in officially seventh?
I still don't know. I mean, Spartan told me I'm in seventh, but the result.
I think you are.
It's strange. Everything they put on social media shows seventh, but like the Athlinks page still shows me in ninth with like a 31-second penalty, which is just strange.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the Athlinks page. I think what they posted is probably official.
Yeah.
Until they run back through to try to figure out who's getting paid, and they give you a 200 instead of 400 or whatever. Then does it go off Athlinks? But it's worth noting. But there was no penalty, we don't think, anyway, because a 31-second penalty wouldn't even really be a thing, right? That's not.
Yeah, that's what we said. And for a while there on Athlinks, we followed up with Spartan, and because like Woodsy fell out of the top 10, and I think VJ had like a 3-minute penalty for a while, like putting him in like sixth place. And they just said, hey, just bear with us. It's some new software. We got some glitches. We'll get it fixed. And so I checked back the next morning. Everything appeared to be fixed except for my time. So, we'll see how it plays out.
We're saying three of the top 11, which for the first race of the season is some really good, some left to be desired. But we'll talk all about what you guys kind of had expected and what you kind of learned from it. But let's just like go right into the race and start talking about just kind of like that first portion of it, which when we looked at it on the map, and then what it looked like from my view, just watching it on TV, was like a lot of flat. And then we got into a lot of mud. So Mark, you were right in the mix, like right from the jump, man. So tell us a little bit about, like that first like 600 to 800 meters.
I mean, it was fast. Like we expected. Everyone took off at a pretty absurd pace, and there was really nothing to slow us down. So we just had a short wall and just open terrain. It kind of narrowed a little bit in the woods. And then some of the guys started to fall off. And I knew with about probably 300-400 meters to go before we hit the water, like I needed to get out in front, because my strength is going to be on the grass, on the trail, and probably not slogging in the water. So I went out and took the lead, and that evaporated pretty quickly once we hit the marshy, like calf deep water.
Yeah, that was also kind of the plan, right? Like when we talked about it, and we thought, even when we were doing like the map debrief, looking at it like, okay, this might be a mile of flat running. Like, and so we looked at it like, Mark, you got to take this out. Like you are probably the most fit out of anyone in this race on flat terrain. And you might get a mile stretch of complete flat there. So is that kind of what you were thinking? Because how soon into it was it when you took the lead? Like 400, 600 meters or so?
Yeah, 400, 600 meters. I took the lead. And then we hit we hit my watch. I hit the mile mark at about 540, I think 546 or 547 pace, and that had a little bit of that marsh water in it. So we were moving pretty good.
Yeah. Nick, Nick and Logan, you guys both were right in that chase pack as well. Nick, how'd that first like 800 meters, like when you hit that slop, feel for you?
Okay. I definitely was getting more fatigued than I thought I was going to get. I'm pretty good at running through muddy terrain. My thighs were burning a little bit more than I would like it to be, but I didn't, like, I was kind of like, Mark fell back a little bit. Logan came up on my shoulder. And then like Mark Batris was right there. So like, I felt like I was in a great position still running through all the muddy terrain. I just felt a little more fatigued than I would have liked to at that point. Definitely.
And that was still, and you were probably what, in 6th, 7th, 8th-ish?
Yeah. So my first mile on Strava segment, I was 6th overall. Josiah and Mark's not on, Mark Batris, so whatever you want to say. But I was right there at a 5:42, and Mark at the first mile shows it at 5:38. So I mean, I was right there with the lead pack, just a little bit more off than I wanted to.
And that was kind of your plan as well, right? Like you stick there and at some point in the race, try to make some sort of decisive move, in particular the bucket, which we will get to. Did you feel like you put yourself in the position that you needed to be in that first?
I mean, I just fell back a little bit too much. My thighs were burning, and I just felt like I had to slow down a little bit to survive just the final parts of the race. I felt like I was going out a little too hot. And, you know, I'm a little known for going out a little too hot, but I thought I could hold it a little more, yes, on Sunday. But I still felt like when I got to the bucket, I was in a good position, at least to pass a couple people that I needed to.
Right. So you were kind of in there. And that, watching the thing that they put up on Instagram, there was a point, I think when Logan was right with you, it was him and maybe it was Batris, and it looked like.
Yeah, Batris.
Yeah. And they went past you, and it did look like you were working at that point, Nick.
Yeah.
Like right at that moment, I was like, he looks like there's fatigue built up.
Yeah. And I've never ran gracefully, so who knows? But
that's you at your freshest.
Time, but yes, yeah.
and that was right before we hit the far west, like kind of the furthest west point in the course, where there was a lot of mud, and we were about to get into some deep slop, where eventually, you know, I was coming around that turn with Batris. Batris made the turn first. I just come by your shoulder there, Nick, and we took that hard right. And then once we hit the mud, I started to pull away from Batris and try to catch up to Mark so that Mark and I could run together through the mud. And that's where we kind of took off and worked together a little bit.
And how were you feeling at this point, Logan? Like that was, again, the plan is just like put your nose in it.
Yeah.
Empty the tank when it comes time to empty the tank. So in that first mile or so, how are you feeling?
Man, you know, it felt fast, like it always does, and that's exactly what we expected. But being right there in like the top 7 or 7 or 8 or whatever it was, you know, I felt good. I felt like my cadence was up. Even going through the slop and through the mud, I wasn't losing much ground. And was able to choose good lines. And sometimes running through the mud is just as important to choose the right side as it is to be efficient, you know, kind of powering through it. So I felt like I picked good lines and had Mark to kind of follow through some of those tough spots.
Right. And Mark, you and I talked about it a little bit, like almost trying to figure out how that mud is going to change and how it's going to be each time you run through it and how it's going to change each time. So when you were running through it, are you just guessing, or like Logan was racing smart, right? He was kind of seeing what was happening to you, Mark, in front of him. And then was like, if it looked good, he would go that way. If it looked bad, he would go a different way, which is smart racing, especially in that type of terrain. So how do like Mark and Nick, like, were you just guessing what was a good line there? Because the visibility on the ground is pretty low, right? Are you just hoping?
I would say I was more guessing. It was a little tougher for me at the start because we were all in a pack and I was a little behind the pack. and you're like, it's not like normal running. You're literally having to look down at the ground the whole time instead of looking ahead. So I feel like at any moment I was just following the person in front of me, and I could have just, if they fell in a hole, I probably would have fell in a hole. I didn't really put too much thought in where I was going. But at the same time, I thought it was all like from left to right. The whole course was, I felt like I had a feeling it was pretty much all the same depth of like the mud. Like nothing was too much low, nothing was deeper than other parts, which is probably isn't true. But that's how I ran sometimes right in the middle when some people were running on the side, because I just kind of want to get away from them. And I felt like we were running the same kind of deepness of mud.
And there was no real consensus, like best way to do it. Like everybody kind of picked a different side almost, right? And you just picked that side, and like you just kind of had to deal with whatever you had. So Mark, when you were running through it, I know that felt hard. Were you thinking it was hard at the time, or was it like, were you getting frustrated running through that, or was it just like actually fatiguing trying to get through that mud?
There was a little bit of frustration. So my plan was to get out in front, be the first into the water. And I was hoping I could dictate the pace from that point, because I was hoping they would get behind me and just stay at what was comfortable for me.
Right.
And that was for like the first 10 meters. And then they just like all, went to and it was pretty narrow there. They all went like left and came around me. So then I jumped in behind BJ. And where I really kind of lost the contact is what Logan was talking about, is where we kind of got to that westernmost point. And we kind of split off into two camps. BJ went to the right. It was a very like wide trail there. And Kempson, Woodsy, and Josiah all went to the left. And I knew that BJ went out there the day before for the super and ran the whole course. And I was like, oh, BJ probably knows something here. And I think we chose the wrong side in that case, because I looked over and we definitely were like deeper. And BJ would like fall. I would like try to avoid that. But we both lost, him less so than I. We lost some time when we got back onto a little more solid ground there. BJ was able to close the gap pretty quickly, but I had kind of lost contact at that point.
Yeah, that, and like it can be hard to kind of dig yourself out of that when something like that happens, and like this mistake that just lingers there. It's like, oh shit, that was not the move. Logan, how did you handle that back marshy huge trail part, or is it just kind of plugging along? Did you pick the lefts? You picked the lefts with everybody else?
No, I picked the opposite side of those guys, and probably actually made up a little bit of ground there. I knew it was a little bit longer to go that way on the outside to the far left, but I also knew it would be less deep. And not being a power runner, right? It was important for me to stay out of the deep stuff. So I stayed to the left, probably made up a little ground. That's where I kind of got back in contact with Mark not too far after that point, and then I think a big benefit is the fact that I've been running on ice and snow and slop, for months now, up here doing a lot of trail stuff, in Cleveland. And, I just felt comfortable. I felt comfortable even in the mud, in the water. So I think that helped.
Were you thinking about that? Were you like, oh, it's just like another day in Cleveland. This is just like how I know it.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but I also wasn't out of my element. I felt completely comfortable running through it. And anytime, we tripped or slipped, we were falling forward. Right. And like, you're bouncing right back up and you keep going. I think I actually went down once, and it didn't cost me much time. So, it was good. And then having the benefit of Mark being there, I didn't really plan it that way, but being able to see where he would drop a little deep into the mud, I could step over those spots and maybe save a little bit of energy there. So Mark, thank you, by the way. I didn't get to thank you after the race, but I didn't plan to do that, but that was really helpful.
Mark's just out there blocking, just laying people out.
He's just out there blocking. Exactly. Pulling me through the slop.
That's some good camaraderie from the teammates.
Right.
So coming out of that, then it went straight to the bucket, right? And there was a little bit of like flat-ish. Was it not as messy getting to bucket? Was that relatively groomed there?
The bucket carry was groomed. There was no mud, I thought, around that little pond that we ran on. It was pretty muddy leading up to the bucket carry. Yeah. But the actual carry itself was fine. It was like cross-country running.
Yeah,
And
we had to drop underneath a wired fence in the mud and then run along the mud for a little while. And I bashed my arm on like some sort of like post that was out there. I wasn't paying too close of attention right before we picked up the bucket and then carried it.
didn't even hurt. Just kept it running right through. The and so Nick, this was your spot, right? We talked like, all right, if I'm in contact with the bucket, I'm gonna hammer this bucket and then try to be in as close to first place as possible. And at that point, you were back a little bit.
I was back. Yeah, I mean, Logan and Mark probably had a good 10-second lead on me, so it would have took a pretty heroic effort to at least catch up to them on the buckets. But Mark Batris and Kirk, they just got ahead of me right before the bucket, and I was able to pass them on the carry. So I at least made a move to get ahead of some people and like stay ahead of them till pretty much the tire flip.
Second fastest Strava segment.
Yeah, that's right.
Chris Bob Brown out there sandbagging things.
Yeah.
I've done that at the hills in like the sandbag carry at Palmerton. I have like the fastest segment ever because I ran up the hill.
Yeah, I messaged him. I said, please take that down. Actually, VJ had the fastest bucket. He finally uploaded it, but he got me by 3 seconds.
So since we're talking about the bucket, how did you guys carry that now that we can hold it on our shoulders? Different ways to carry the thing. How are you guys carrying it?
I went one shoulder. I wouldn't recommend it. If you get it on the back of your neck, I think with two hands seems to be the fastest from what I saw. I went like one shoulder and then like messed around switching it to the other shoulder, and I just wasn't very efficient at all. And I think on the video I saw most of the guys who were moving better than I was moving. They all had it on the back of their neck.
Interesting. Nick, what were you doing?
I did my right shoulder the whole time, with the lid of the bucket facing forward.
Facing forward.
Yeah, that's how I practice it. I don't carry it on. If I carry it on my left, somehow my right side collapses and puts pressure on my rib.
Oh.
Even though my rib pops out on the right side, so I don't really know. I just feel the pressure when I put it on my left side, so I only carry it and practice it carrying it on my right side. So I put it on there and I hold on to the lid, and that has worked for me. I don't like putting it on my neck. See, this is why everybody's so different. I don't like putting it on my neck. I feel like I need one arm to run, I feel like.
Yeah, I get that. Logan, how you doing it?
Yeah, same deal for me. You know, I follow the Nick Ryker methodology of just holding it on my right shoulder the entire time, not switching, and keeping the lid in the front, just kind of balancing it there and gliding, right? Yeah, I mean, you're not going big, huge strides, but not a lot of oscillation up and down, just trying to stay smooth and clean, going through that spot.
I've tried it the one time last year at Jacksonville. I tried it with the lid behind me, so having the bottom of the bucket at my face, and it felt fast, but I was so worried that the jostling of the rocks was going to bust open the lid that it kind of worried me that it was going to open up on me. But yeah, I think there is definitely different ways to make that work, but it sounds like everybody's carries about the same, especially when the terrain's not like a big deal.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, I don't know. I don't even know how you could really make a mistake. I think Nicole was carrying it across her neck too. I think that's how Josiah was doing it also. But whatever. So coming out of the bucket then, was there much movement, or did everyone just kind of maintain from what you guys saw?
I would say maintain, because we had the Atlas carry there. Nobody's going to make up ground on the Atlas carry. It was pretty easy to get up. And then we went straight into a little water crossing. Mm-hmm. And when I got in the water, I could see Josiah still in the water. So we were, from first through, I was in a pack of people. So first through 12, how many people were, we were all in that water at the same time. Mm-hmm. I didn't pass anybody. Nobody passed me in the water. I don't know where Mark and Logan were a little ahead of me. I don't know if they passed each other back and forth, but I thought it was pretty cool once I got in there. We were all still right there in the water together.
Yeah, it seemed really slow. Logan, what was your mindset going into that? Was it just conserve energy and maintain your spot, or was it try to push and move through it?
Yeah. Because at that point, Mark and I kind of traded places. So Mark was, I think maybe it was right at the end of the bucket, I threw it down, and so, so he was kind of following me through the water. And what I was hoping is that the water would be early enough that we could just draft behind a big group of guys the way we did last year and like save a bunch of energy, then just start racing at the end. But it wasn't so close that we could, catch a current of anybody else. So, so we jumped in the water. I saw the guys, just up ahead, still in the water. The idea through the water wasn't to make up a ton of time. It was just to get through it efficiently. And then again, start racing, start pushing, harder, once we bounced out of the water, because I think in this short of a sprint with this many obstacles, gaining speed coming off of the obstacles, out of the obstacles are going to be those valuable seconds where you can make up some ground.
And then we started to kind of get into some obstacles, right? Like A-frame and then into speed. Like there may have been something else, but there was A-frame and then into spear.
A-frame, hoist, vertical cargo, spear.
Oh, the hoist was there. Okay. So there was a couple of, was there any room there to make up ground, or was it just like get to the spear with everybody? Cause they were kind of all back to back to back. Was there any jostling okay. So like Mark and Logan, you guys are probably in, 5th and 6th or 6th and 7th.
They were in 6th and 7th.
Yeah. Cause it was Josiah.
5th and 6th.
They were in 5th and 6th. They were in
5th and 6th.
Yep.
So in 5th and 6th at this point, and Nick, you're probably right around where you were, 10th, 11th.
I was about 7. I was right behind them.
You were right there. You were right there too.
I was the next guy behind them.
So just like this is about, you're coming back into the festival. So this is maybe a mile. This might be halfway at this point, you think?
More than halfway.
More than half?
A little over. Yeah. A little over.
How's everybody feeling at this point? Like, so Mark, physically, how are you doing?
So I'm feeling pretty good. When Logan and I teamed up, I kind of and I'd lost contact with the lead group. My mindset was, like the tire's coming. Like I want to go into the tire. I knew that decided the race before, and so if I can maintain my position here, I'm going to be in good shape heading into the tire. If others are struggling, so I didn't want to go into the tire redlining. So I was like pretty content with where I was at.
Okay. Cause it wasn't far off, and like, going into the spear, even like that could also have been like, there's no real way to make a move and you're feeling good physically. Logan, where are you at? How are you? What are you checking in like?
Yeah, actually I felt really good coming out of the water. I felt like the race was just getting started. Right. And that, there's nothing to gain or lose, really before you get to the spear. There's only something to lose, right? When you get to the spear, if you miss it, right? And it's going to cost you 40 seconds or whatever it takes to get through that penalty loop. So, so I went into it knowing, hey, I'm going to lose maybe a couple seconds on the Herc hoist. I weigh considerably less, and it usually takes me a couple seconds more, but not to get worked up about it. Get over the A-frame really efficiently, get over the vertical cargo efficiently, nail the spear, and then since I had done on Friday, I had done the Supercross event. I felt really comfortable on the back half. Mark and I had both done that event, so we knew what hills were coming, how to efficiently get through the barbed wire crawl and some other things that we had done before. And so I felt really good about it. The only thing I was concerned about was really the tire flip. I knew that was going to be a challenge, a big challenge for me.
In a short race like this, when you're rolling up to something like a spear, right in the middle, right in the thick of things, like you could potentially, if everybody misses a spear, you could be in first. If you miss a spear, you could be in 15th. What's the approach when you're pulling up to that? Like, Mark, when you're going through spear though, is it the same if it's a beast, a super, or a sprint, or is there feeling more urgency in a race like this, in a race that's big and it has a little bit more pressure, and like you're like right in the thick of things? Like, what were you thinking about through the spear?
There's definitely more urgency, and especially when you're seeing everyone as you're coming in, they're lining it up and everyone's sticking it. Everyone around there was like, Logan stuck it right next to me, and then after I hit it, I could hear, Nick coming in there, and Magida and Kirk and Gaudet, they're all sticking it. You feel like you don't see them the entire race, but they're right there. Only 5. Or a few seconds off the entire race. So you're hearing all that happen. So you definitely feel the urgency to get out of your hand a little bit faster. But like no spear.
That's crazy. That's insane. Logan, you feel the same way, or how you when you come to a spear in this type of scenario?
Yeah, no, I mean, a spear is something that you got to be, smooth is fast, but you don't want to rush it, right? You want to take that 1 second for a breath, and line it up, because it's even for a sprint, right? It's not worth the half second you're going to save to just throw it sooner. So I come into it, just line it up, take the breath, hit it, and go, and don't overthink it, right? I think a lot of people can be like, oh, usually I pull left, so I'm going to throw a little more right, or oh, there's a crosswind, or whatever it may be, right? You can get in your head. Everybody's thrown a spear. You've done it a million times. You know how to do it. Just do it, nail it, don't overthink it, and keep going.
Pick it up and roll. And did we lose Ryker? I think he's gone. I just saw. Whatever.
He'll pop back in.
He also hit this spear. We'll skip over plate drag because that's kind of the same thing, right? Like I don't even think you lose even as much time on a Herc hoist with a plate drag. I think it just sucks for everybody. It's just like annoying, just dragging the thing back. And then we're rolling up to the tire. So this was the race, right? And this is what everyone has been talking about. And it was like an absolute problem. And you guys were still in 5th and 6th at this point leading into the tire.
Yep.
And Logan, you came into it 5th, and Mark, you were 6th.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you're rolling up, and when you guys get there, is VJ still playing with it, or is he gone?
I think VJ had done one flip, and he was working the second one when we got there.
And but so Kempson had done one too at that point. I think he got his first one over before VJ did.
So like it was really the tire was like really well hidden behind the mounds. So like we were just surprised. We're like, whoa, like we come around the corner, we thought we were, what were you, like 20 seconds off, maybe 25 seconds off them at that point.
Yeah.
But then when we came into it, all of a sudden, like they're right there and they're all still there. So it was like that split second decision of like, what are you going to do?
Right.
And at this point, like the visual must be VJ playing with it, Kempson playing with it, Josiah struggling, and then Woods is doing burpees, right? So then this is where the two of you kind of went different ways where, and this is like the hard thing to really determine like what to do in this scenario. Mark, when you saw Woods doing burpees, did you see him doing burpees and were you like, oh shit, this might be something that's hard? Or were you like, I'm flipping this tire?
I saw him doing burpees, but then I also saw VJ flip it the second time. And I was immediately like, well, I'm going to get this. And I should have gone further down the pit and probably got to the one VJ had just used.
Yeah.
But I found one that actually I could get my hands under like really easily, right off. And I felt comfortable. And I saw Logan, go over there and just start like knocking them out. And so I went to the tire and I got it up on my foot and I got it up to about almost knee height. And I just lost like the grip, the handle on it. Like it wasn't the weight of it. It was like just trying to get it up above the knee. My hands like just kept slipping off from it. And I had like terrible footing in the mud, but I got that twice with the same tire. And then I kept looking down there and I'm just seeing more people join the burpee pit. And I'm like, and so I went to one more tire. I tried one more time and I tried like the pinch grip to get it up on my toe and it slipped out again. Then I joined Logan right next to him in the burpee pit, but I'm pretty sure he was finished and out of there when I was on like burpee 9 or 10 around there. So he had gained like 20 burpees on me with me trying like really 3 legit attempts.
Which is like a minute. So he came in maybe 2 seconds ahead of you and left 58 seconds ahead of you, right? So you must have spent a minute on the tire then. Does that sound right?
I think that's probably pretty accurate.
Probably close.
Yeah. And Logan, you came up and you said, even before, like that was one of the first things when this course came out, I was like, what do you think? You're like, not thrilled about this tire. It's like, it was like, yeah, I mean, and I was optimistic. I was like, Florida is probably gonna be on sands. Like,
Right.
it's like the grass there is weird, but apparently the ground being really hard, like, was a problem. It was like kind of like, it was like asphalt, and like, obviously it's humid as Florida. So when you decided, like, that moment when you decided to run to burpees, like, you gave it a shot. It wasn't like you touched the thing and bounced. It's like, gave it a shot. I was like, all right, this might not happen. So when you went to go do burpees, were you like, my race is fucked? Or were you like, my race is going to get way better now? Like,
yeah.
what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the Florida sand is that, like, these tires were sitting there, for, all night, and they had sunk in just a little bit. So you really couldn't get your fingers underneath, even trying to dig it out. And there was so much moisture, right, just from condensation. So I knew as soon as I tried 2 different techniques to get the tire up, I knew that it was very unlikely that it would happen, and that I would only be wasting time to sit there and try to flip it. Even if I flipped it once, there was no guarantee I was flipping it back. So I saw Woodsy doing burpees, and I said, you know what? I'm fast at burpees. I can do them right. I can do them quick. I'm not very tall, which helps me a little bit in burpees. And so I went and started busting them out really fast, and didn't feel like, I didn't feel like it was going to hurt me that much. Even if I lost, 30 seconds, I'm still in the top 10 or so. But luckily, other people had issues, with the tire too. And so that put me right in contention. And actually leaving the burpee pit, I had no idea that I was in 3rd. I thought that I was still in, 5th place or something.
Because, I mean, when you were in there doing those burpees, no one else flipped the tire. Nobody. And there was probably, right. And like, so more and more people probably started joining you in the pit. Were you like 15 burpees in, like, oh, sweet, this is great? Or were you just like,
yeah. No, I wasn't thinking about it. And I wasn't really even paying attention to how many other people were joining me in the pit. I was just like, I got to get these done efficiently, like, keep going faster. And because, if it's dry, I get the tire and I don't have an issue with the tire. But I was still really, anytime you're caught in a race doing burpees, it's never a positive thought in your mind, right?
Right.
You always think it's a disadvantage, but the fact that I moved to burpee so quickly and didn't waste time on the tires, what gave me, is what put me in contention.
It's smart racing. It really is just like being definitive, making that decision. And that's where the tire is tough. And Ryker, you kind of had a similar experience to Mark. Mark, we kind of spent maybe a minute fiddling with it. How long do you think you were on it?
Probably from anywhere from like 80 to 90 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, I rolled up in there probably 7th or 8th place. Saw everybody doing burpees, and I just said, this is my moment. That I've always, I fell back. I was getting a little fatigued at that point, but I've always been confident with the tire. I'm confident with the pitch grip. I'm confident I can lift it up. And I just said, this is my moment, like, to just, prove a lot of people wrong, because I didn't go down there to get 8th place. I went down there to get top 5 or a shot at a podium. So I was like, this is my moment that I've been training for. And just, I was stubborn on that tire. I never thought about just, going straight to burpees, and looking back, I could have done that, and who knows what place I would have finished in. But I'm still happy to give it everything I had trying to lift that tire, because it was anything after 5th place, I didn't really want. So 11. So I ended up coming in 11th place. But that's obstacle course racing. You have business decisions you have to make within seconds. Like, am I going to do this, or am I going to go straight to burpees? Like, so yeah, it was. I mean, that's the same story for probably a lot of the people in the top 15. Is my same story probably.
And you need to kind of have that experience, right? Like at that, it sounded like in that moment you seized it and were like, okay, I can do this. I know I can flip this thing over. Where maybe next time you come in and be like, what's going to be the right tactic for this race, right? Like, you're not like guaranteed to get any obstacle. And now that's kind of that now opens up different ways to approach a race for you, right? It's not like I have to do this, because sitting there for that long, you probably thought that for what, a whole minute, like, I'm flipping this over.
Yeah. And I tried almost every time. I was like, I got to try all these tires before I just go to burpees because what if I find one that has a little dip in it or something? So I tried like 7 or 8 tires. I felt like just going down the row,
Right.
and like I did not want to do burpees. Like I had leading up to the race, I've had some GI problems that really affected my fatigue levels, and I knew 30 burpees would just crush me. Even though we had like a half a mile left to race, I just did not want to do them.
Yeah. And I mean, you had to go for it, right? And I think not going for, if you didn't go for it, you'd feel much worse in this specific race, right? And now in other races down the road, to not go for it, you would know like the consequences or how big of a shift could actually happen. It was something like that, whatever obstacle it is that comes up. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you went for it. I think you should have.
I am too. Like I talked to a lot of people. I talked to my brother, my dad after the race. I was like I said, I didn't want to go down there and be satisfied with an 8th place finish. So I mean, the reward was greater than anything else if I could have flipped it.
It was, right.
Yeah.
It totally was. And I mean, that's and what Magida came in there 10th and finished like 35th or something. Yeah. It's for the same reason.
Yeah.
Like he stood there even longer.
And here's and part of it is like, so Nick had a chance to flip that tire, even if it's wet, right? Like he's stronger, bigger. Like I went in knowing that, hey, if this tire is significantly wet, I have a much smaller percentage chance of flipping this tire and doing it in the amount of time that Nick would do it. So it was an easier decision for me to go bust out my burpees than it was for Nick, who is used to flipping tire in any condition.
Right. It actually, the tire played to the advantage of the smaller athlete this time.
Yeah, this time. Right.
It really did. And it actually was a disadvantage for Kempson, who came there in second, couldn't see anything, didn't know how it was going to play out for the entire elite field. And he sat there and played with it as well. So it's just a strange dynamic. I didn't expect the tire to do this to this race. Did you guys did you foresee it at all?
I didn't either. I didn't think it was going to be that wet because usually I could just pinch grip it and it's no problem. And it was like people told me in the past they haven't been able to pinch it because it was wet. And like at the same race I've done, I was like, well, I was able to do it, but that was something else. My God.
It was almost slimy. It was like it was more than wet for some reason. It was like, it was worse.
Florida's just a weird place, man. Just through and through, top to bottom. Everything about Florida is just weird. So like, all right. So the tire, we said everything. That's been like the story. The remainder of the race, like Logan, when did you know you were in third?
When I got to the finish line, I didn't see anybody else there except VJ.
No way.
I had no idea. No idea. I mean, honestly, I still thought I was in 5th place, probably. I was hoping I was in the top 5. But yeah, didn't know I was in third till I hit the finish. And I was it was a pleasant surprise. But I also knew that nobody was going to pass me once I left the burpee pit. If anything, I was only going to catch, whoever was ahead of me. I think everybody probably felt confident leaving that burpee pit that they weren't going to lose a spot because there wasn't a lot of space to be made up except maybe under the barbed wire crawl or something if you can do that more efficiently.
Because you were hammering. The way it looked like you were really going. Like it looked like you were focused on like, okay, here I am. I got to keep pushing forward. There was no looking around. There was no let up. It was like, I'm getting over this finish line. Yeah,
I felt great. I felt like the burpees were a nice rest for me.
Look at you.
Get back to running.
Yeah. So one of the main things we talked is like, all right, let's see about finishing this race and being exhaustedly dead for you. Cause that was something like, and Mark shared that same thing. I kind of shared the same thing last year in this race, finishing and being like, cool. But how did you feel? Were you closer to that?
I might've been a little bit closer to that, but I still wasn't empty. And that's weird to say, knowing where I ended up. But I still felt strong. I still felt like I had something left, but I did feel like I was pushing the entire time, right? Like I was going all out. I was trying to, really open up. So maybe it speaks to the track work I've been doing and some other stuff, but I was really glad to know I could push as hard as I was. and not blow up, because you and I discussed, hey, that's my goal, is either go all out until you're dead and hope you make it to the finish line, or just blow up trying. And and I felt like it was close to that, but I still had a little bit left.
Yeah, of course, like that's just hard. Like there's so many ways to slow down. Like you're stopping the entire time. It's hard to really.
The Z wall is such a break, right? The Z wall, you catch your breath on the Z wall. Monkey bars, you're catching your breath. Like there are these different spots where you can get a short break, and if you can recover really quickly during those obstacles, you can get your leg speed back up really fast.
Yeah. Mark, for you, finishing up in seventh, when you came out of the burpee pit, how are you feeling?
I was gassed. So I came into the tire feeling great. Gassed myself trying to flip the tire for 60 seconds. And then gassed myself on doing 30 burpees as fast as I can. And by the time I got to the Z wall, like it was like Z wall immediately after the burpees. I felt like I was on there for like an eternity. Just making sure I wasn't going to fall off. And then when I got off, like Logan mentioned, I had no idea what place I was in. I just kind of figured I'd lost a lot. But when I came off, I saw Josiah was like right there, like just ahead of me, probably like 25 meters ahead of me. And then as I got to one of the hairpin turns, I could see that Kempson was behind me. And I was like, I'm trying to do like, I wonder how many people actually flipped the tire. And it was only Gawiski. It was the only one who had flipped it behind me and gotten in front of me when I was doing burpees.
Right.
Which I didn't really realize until I finished. But so I had Josiah ahead of me, and I could see he was struggling too, but I just I could not, I closed a little bit, but not enough. And then Kempson just kind of closed a little bit on the bear crawl up the hill, and then he ended up passing me on the monkey bars, and then he chased down Josiah right up at the slip wall, like right at the end, and I was kind of in no man's land and just kind of came in on my own right behind them.
Did you see Josiah coming down the steps to the slip wall? He missed.
Yeah,
that's correct.
I didn't out of the wall at that time, but that could have been really bad. But that was kind of disappointing for me because I was like, man, I really had fifth place. Kempson was able to salvage his race and finish fifth. And if I just had more fitness, I guess I could have done the same.
How were you feeling mentally at that point? Were you feeling engaged or were you just dead?
I was pretty smoked. Yeah, I fit as OCR is a type of fitness, and I think a lot of times we think we're recreating like an OCR scenario, but a lot of times if you're not doing that exact that stimulus, then you're not really training that. And I think the Spartan Cross and the race itself will help me going forward.
Yeah, totally. It's good to get that feedback. It's like, okay, why was I so tired? Right? Because it said going into that race, if it was a 3.4 mile race or whatever it ended up being, start to finish straight line, Mark, you're going to win, and what in between that with a half mile left with 2.8 miles made you so spent. And I mean, that's why we race, right? It's then we got to figure that out and decide how to simulate that best we can or where to spend that time. So from that perspective, it's a win, but definitely a bit of a bummer, So, and Nick, how was the back end of yours?
I mean, I was exhausted. I'm so shocked by Kempson. He left probably 2 burpees ahead of me. And then I saw the final result and he finished in 5th place. So he must have just hammered it. We were burping right by each other. He took forever on those. And then I guess I left the burpee pit in 10th, and Leon passed me right before the barbed wire crawl. I mean, I was just gassed. I I gave it everything I had up to that point, and then the burpees just kind of broke me, and I didn't have anything. I mean, my arms were pumped. The oxygen was running through all over my body. I was getting tired. I was a little out of it. My heart was out of it since I had to do those burpees, and Leon passed me. And I still crossed the finish line just being absolutely like, dang, I haven't done a Spartan race in a year. Like, that was a lot of hard work. So I'm still grateful for my fitness. Like, I still think it showed. I still believe I am fit. And I still believe I gave it everything I had out there, which, again, I've always said that's what I'm most prideful of. Like, can I hammer it until my body can't go anymore?
You are who I aspire to be from that front. I would just want to be as dead as you one day on the course.
Yeah,
that would be great if I could be that. So it's a couple more times around. It's like, I just want to hear some final thoughts on how you guys felt. Basically, were you happy with the race? Maybe some things you might do different, and what's next? So Logan, you go ahead. Were you happy?
Yeah. I think, it'd be pretty dumb of me to say I wasn't happy, about this race and where I ended up. I think I was less surprised than other people to see me on the podium, because I know what I've been doing, and I train a little bit more quietly than a lot of people, and so my goal coming into it, right? We talked about, I said, hey, absolutely top 10, preferably top 5. And I thought it was probably a bit of a pipe dream to be podium, just given the fact that this is a short, flat race, and I am a longer distance, more elevation, more topography, type of racer, and certainly not necessarily a power runner through the mud. So so I was ecstatic. With the result. Very happy. Like, glad I had you guys to run with and to think about and be motivated by during the race. And I just, I can't complain at all. I think it was amazing. And hopefully this is, kind of sets the pace for what's up and coming, with more races that kind of suit my capabilities.
I mean, you're in as good of a spot as possible, right? You came here just be like, let's just get some points on the board and see your and along those lines. Yeah. Are people acting like you were like some age grouper that came out and like got on the podium? Like, you weren't just like constantly on like winning races and top 3 races. Like, you were top 10 at West Virginia, like any race you're in 2019, like you were a threat.
I see Logan Broadbent on the line. It's not an easy day, I'll tell you.
No, I mean, I've won.
Big day.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not a U.S. National Series race, I probably won it, right? Or,
you're on the podium.
Or finish second to Nick.
Second at Palmerton.
Second in Palmerton, and I took 4th at NORAM. The past 2 times we had NORAM up in Stratton Mountain, and that there was good competition there. I think. I don't get offended, right, if I'm not on somebody's bracket. I never am the one to think that somebody should know who I am or know what I'm capable of. I'm okay with being a dark horse, because I do this for myself, for my friends, for the people that I love to train with and hopefully motivate and inspire. But I will give it my all, right? I'll always be out there. There should be no doubt that I'm going to put in the work to prepare for a race. And there should be no doubt that I'm going to put all effort, in every race I show up to. Really, it's just, how's it going to shake out? How am I that day? And, hopefully, a lot of, some podcasts and stuff, people thought I was a big surprise. But I don't think, Nick and I raced together quite a bit since
I raced Logan probably more than anybody in 2019.
So Nick knew. Nick and I are aware of each other's capabilities and stuff. And anybody here in the Midwest kind of knows what I'm about. But I haven't focused on the U.S. National Series. I haven't focused on, real specific races, but, these really major, big races. So I haven't really created that big name for myself. So no offense taken, but I'm not going to apologize for busting anyone's brackets this week. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm offended for you.
Hey,
I take it personal for you. Nah, man, for real, that's great. I was so pumped. Like when I saw, because I was watching the freaking Athlinks page, like refreshing the Athlinks, trying to see what was going on. And I think I did catch you in like 4th or 5th, and I was like, all right, perfect. Like he's there, and like then we'll just see what happens. But then jumping in the 3rd, it was like, holy shit! I had no idea what was happening. I was just saw names on the thing, and it's like I came through. I was like, holy. So totally pumped about that. And yeah, put you in good spot for what's next. Mark, how did you feel about your race? Were you happy? I mean, we kind of alluded to it. Probably not the outcome that you were expecting or looking for. So how you feeling about the race, and like what do you think you would have done different?
I mean, obviously in hindsight, what I would do differently is probably join Logan in the burpee pit a little bit sooner there.
But is that realistic though? Like if you run that race 10 times, you do that how many times? Like
right.
Once, exactly. Maybe.
And like Nick said, I kind of saw the same opportunity there. Like I didn't show up to stay in 5th or 6th place there. I showed up to be on the podium, so I went for it. So I'm not too upset over that. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed with the finish in 7th place. But I mean I guess the silver lining is though it's like kind of refocused me and give me new energy and new motivation to get ready for race number 2 in the series. And like Logan said, a lot of people see my speed, but my strength lies in the longer these events go, the more that's going to play into my favor with like obstacles meaning a little bit less, and a little more like longer, more brutal carries are going to be more up my alley. So I'm also looking forward to getting on to race number 2 and in the series. And then I think to answer your other question, what's next is I'm going to hit a couple of local trail races to kind of get off the pavement a little bit more. And then I'm going to head down to Charlotte for the sprint weekend in April.
Cool. Yeah, man. I mean, when things start to turn into a grind, that's all you. There's not a ton of, the different type of grind for Jacksonville, but man, if it was that long of a slog for 2 hours, yeah, that's going to be up your alley. Ryker, how you feeling?
I mean, I don't think I could have done anything more to prepare for Jacksonville. So that's pretty on a good bright side. I had a great, I got sick a couple of weeks before, not COVID, but I just got a little stomach flu. Sent me back for a week, and then the week leading up to 2 weeks leading up to the race, I got some kind of GI issue where it's really messed with a lot of my fatigue levels, but I still gave it everything I had at the race. And I'm disappointed with 11th, but I'm looking forward to we have a whole season, and that's what I'm just looking forward to now. I got this one out of the way, and now it's just time to do more work. Like I said, I've had the lead up of 2021. I've had a great 2 months of training. I thought I ran more miles in the month of January than any month I've ever done before. So, and I hate to play this card, but I'm still one of the younger guys out there. So I still have a lot of time to improve, a lot of time to, make my name in the sport still. And, I'm going to be seeing Mark in Charlotte, I'll see him over there. And right before that, I'm going to hit up DecaFit in Dallas in March.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I got to figure out which one of those I can get to. And so you've done, you've played you played it right when it came to, the stomach issues and leading into the race. Like you mentioned it to me, and I was like, my first reaction was like shit, like that's not awesome. No. But then I thought like, well, if anybody's going to handle it, it's going to be you. You're just going to be like, meh. You're like, yeah, it's not that bad when I run. But like, aside from the physical, there is still a mental component of being ill.
I mean, Brian Kowalski said in an interview, like he looked at me at the start line and I was nervous. I mean, I didn't know how my body was going to hold up during the race. I was excited, but I was way more nervous than excited. So I wish I can go back and kind of like talk me off that ledge a little bit. I couldn't eat anything the night before or the morning of. Like I was just so nervous. Like, what's the body gonna do tomorrow? And I'm 2 miles in the race and I get this horrible stomach cramp. Like I don't know.
Yep.
Thankfully, I had adrenaline the whole time. I felt like, and it just kind of went away. But definitely was way more nervous than I have ever been for a race.
Yeah, and it's like at the first race after a year of nothing and the year of prep and thinking about this race, it's like even though this race isn't that big of a deal, it's a big deal to get the podium on, but not that big of a deal like in general, like the grand scope of things. Mm-hmm. But when it's this first race that comes back, it's like this huge weight. It's like gotta prove everything.
Everybody's looking at it, yeah,
right, and like it's really not the case, you know. So, but like, so it's just getting that out, getting those jitters done, and man, it's fucking season time, so I'm fired up.
Yeah.
So Charlotte,
it's so early in the season, you know, and the season is so long, and it's going to be so back heavy that, you know, it's almost the last place you want to be is on the podium this early in the season.
But you'll take it.
Take the money, I'll tell you that.
Take that money. Logan, where are you going to be next? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, you know, so I was thinking about going to Vegas.
Nice.
But it might be at the same time as American Ninja Warrior out in Tacoma. So I may not be able to make it, but it's either going to be that or, you know, maybe I'll meet these guys down in Charlotte.
Let's make Charlotte a thing.
Yeah, that might be fun.
Charlotte,
I mean, it's a short.
There'll be the U.S. National Series #2 then if you go, Logan.
Yeah, seriously. We can all be on the podium for sure for that one. I think we can clean up, but I know Woods will be there too, right? He lives in that area. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll look at that, and then you know, really planning on hitting the U.S. National Series, you know, pretty deliberately, and then, you know, just seeing how it shakes out for the rest of the season.
And we're thinking Big Bear
probably won't happen, but you gotta plan for the, you know, prepare for the, like, plan for the best.
I won't be at Big Bear no matter what, even if it happens.
You're not gonna go?
No. You get 3 out of 5. Big Bear, Utah, that's out for me. That's not my wheelhouse. I don't ever want to do that. Yeah.
So you're gonna bank on slow happening in November?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair because those are not altitude, because that's at sea level. You know, Big Bear and Utah are at altitude.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
Both,
it's hard,
and they're both
hard to breathe at altitude.
I'm not a beast kind of guy.
Not yet. All right, dudes. Well, I appreciate you guys popping on. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but good start to the season. Glad we were able to kind of connect and keep this thing rolling. So make sure to link to all your socials and everything. And cool, fellas. Make sure make sure that people know what you guys are up to. So I'm just gonna press stop and we'll just hang here for a sec. All right.
Cool. Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, Rich.